Hi everyone. One of you recently told me that I still haven't done a full review for the True Black Tarot. This is one of my all-time favorite decks, and so it's so hard for me to believe that I forgot to do that. This being said, I did not go through my videos on the channel to see if I actually had recorded a video. Guys, there's like hundreds of videos on my channel at this point, and I just don't have the time or energy right now to scroll through and find that. But I figured I will do a review now. Again, whether this is the first review or it's a second review, I'd love to talk about the True Black Tarot again. It's one of my absolute favorite tarot decks. I think it's the deluxe version of tarot. It's as bougie as it gets. And let's face it, sometimes we all like to be a little bit bougie, and you're talking to a Taurus here. I like to be bougie most of the time. Let's get real. I love this deck. So let's get into the review. Let's talk about the deck a little bit. First of all, let's have a sip of tea. So this is an independently produced deck. I cannot remember the artist's name off the top of my head, and I meant to look it up before I started this review, so please be patient with me. Give me 1 second. See if he says, oh no, where does it say? It doesn't say it in here. Okay, I will list it in the link in case you want to purchase, because I will put a link to his website. But the deck is called the True Black Tarot. It's independently produced. It's very well known. It's a very unique deck. You're not going to accidentally purchase a different deck, but this is the True Black Tarot. So I did not purchase this deck. A friend of mine sent this to me as a gift, and she told me when she sent it to me that it was the Louboutin of tarot decks, and she was right. She's a Sagittarius, so she should know. But the deck arrives in this beautiful box. Look at all the embossing. I believe this deck is going to run you around $100 with shipping. If I'm wrong, please, someone, well, I'm sure will correct me in the comments below. It's absolutely worth the price. Some independently produced decks I have found as of late are not worth the price. This deck is absolutely worth the price. So this beautiful box, and then on the inside it says, it is only in darkness that we see the stars. I'm sure you can imagine, with my love for all things black and all things goth, that I would love this deck. And I was not disappointed in any way, shape, or form. Look at that embossing. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. So it arrives with this beautiful embossed card that just says True Black, finely crafted artifacts. Right? Isn't that beautiful? And then there is a small little white book that accompanies the deck. I do encourage reading this through. It is worth it. He does provide some really beautiful, unique perspective, and also like a refresh on traditional meaning here too. But you're going to see that you get some keywords and a brief reproduction of a significant symbol that's included in the imagery. Now for the majors, you see you get a little bit more information there, but it's definitely worth a read. Very helpful information. There are 79 cards in this deck. One of them is, the 79th is called Anant, I believe. Let me double check myself. You know when you know a deck like the back of your hand? Yeah, it's called Anant. And he talks about here in the description, you know, kind of this very infinite cyclical energy, and that's what you're accessing with this card. Endless, infinite, exempt, cyclical are the keywords. So you can choose to work with that additional card in your deck or not. That's totally up to you. So the box, nice and sturdy, you're definitely going to want to keep it because you're going to want to house these cards somewhere special because you didn't seriously invest in them. But it was worth the investment, I assure you. The deck is completely black all the way through. No borders. So right off the bat, I was happy. The cardstock is my favorite cardstock. Maybe my favorite cardstock ever. It's matte, but it's not, it doesn't get stuck in my hands like some of the Blue Angel cards can do. It's smooth and like a little velvety, but it's not something that's going to catch in an uncomfortable way or scratch easily when you're shuffling. That being said, I don't shuffle this deck the way I would typically shuffle a card deck. I really am very aware of taking care of this deck. Now, I'm someone who takes care of all of my decks. So I still have my original Tarot of Vampires deck, and I use that thing constantly. And that one gets pretty beat on. And it's still going strong. And hello, we're over 10 years now. So as long as you are careful with this, I mean, this deck, I was still living in my old apartment when this deck was sent to me. So this deck is a couple years old now, and she looks exactly the same as when I first bought her. So cardstock is probably my favorite cardstock ever. This and the Witch's Tarot by Burning Paper Hearts is like my favorite cardstock ever. It's so delicious. The major arcana have this beautiful embossing on the cards that continue to kind of carry the message through. And he references this in the little white book, the small guidebook that accompanies it. And the titles are embossed at the bottom. You can see there that this is the Magician when I let the light hit it, right? Okay. It's predominantly black and white imagery. His use of color is very selective. So you've got like golds, black and whites, grays, and there's a pop of red on occasion as well. So this is another major here. We have the Chariot, of course. Why is it always a Chariot, guys? Oh my God. But do you see that? You can see there the embossing around that. And this is the Fool. And then here we have the Death card. So you see very selective use of the color red. It really makes the imagery pop. And I love that these images are not oversaturated. It's very gentle on the eyes, but striking in the imagery. So if you're in a place where you feel like overloaded and oversaturated with tarot, this is a nice core deck to come back to. Okay, so while I am talking about this, I'm just going to talk a little bit about, here's King of Cups, guys. I'm just going to talk a little bit about how this deck reads for me. Now, I have talked about this in previous videos because this deck often makes my seasonal favorites, because this is in my top 5 tarot decks that I can't live without. This deck is honestly there. And I will do an updated, sorry guys. I will do an updated video on that. But this deck is like, she's gorgeous, she's high end. You're gonna have a glass of Prosecco with her, but she's gonna tell you the truth. The True Black Tarot does not, it lives up to its name. There's the Hierophant. She's gonna tell you the straight up truth. She does not sugarcoat this. She doesn't make it sweet. She doesn't make it taste good. She straight up tells you how it is. And sometimes she wants to have a really long conversation with you, and sometimes she just says it and she's gone. She says it and she's done. Like, we talked about it, you know, I've told you the truth. Now it's time for you to deal with this. So she's very clear, but she does so beautifully. And she is like a nice pair of Louboutins. She's high end. So you really do get this kind of feeling of like ritual when you work with her and you're having an experience. It's not just like laying out the cards really quickly while you have your morning coffee or tea and then like going about your day. Like, you really want to take your time and spend time with this deck, even though she can be very just concise and straight and to the point and she's done. Like, you as the reader want to hang out with her and sit with the imagery and take your time. Now, this is a deck that I don't tend to overdraw with. So, you know, and let's face it, those of you who have mentored with me, I am not a person who draws 100 cards in a spread anyhow. So you're never gonna like see that from me, but this deck especially, I can get, here's the Tower. I freaking love this image, guys. Oh, it's so beautiful. But anyhow, I'm never gonna use like 100 cards in a spread anyhow, as I just said, but with this deck especially, I typically stick to 1 to 5 cards, and I don't go super far into, you know, 10 cards or 20 cards. Here's the Anant card, guys. I really like to, here's the Devil. This is one of my favorite images in the deck. I love this depiction of the Devil. So very clear, very truthful, but she's also like that really, really super cool best friend, and you wish you were as cool as her, and like you feel cool hanging out with her. Like she's that type of energy for sure. The artwork is stunningly beautiful in my opinion. It's like dream artwork for me. It's artwork that I want to have on my walls. In fact, I have been considering getting a print of his to put on my wall recently. Here's the Hermit. I love this imagery too. The artist is just very, very gifted and has really created a beautiful deck that is, in my opinion, worth every cent that you would invest in purchasing this deck. That being said, you have to feel a connection to this artwork. You have to like the black because it's so black. You have to like that black background. It has to be something that, you know, you're really able to interact with. If you find it distracting and unhelpful, then you're not going to get as much out of the deck. For me, it's very relaxing. As someone who works with cards every day of my life, it's so relaxing for me to have the black to look at in the background, and just like my eyes can just kind of gentle and soften. The gaze, you know, my gaze can gentle and soften as I'm looking at the imagery. And I love, again, that it's not overwhelmed with symbols and sigils and things happening in the card. I like that it's concise and we're sticking to a very specific theme and feel in the imagery. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this deck. I love this deck. As I said, it's in my top 5. It's absolutely worth the investment. I believe it is still available for purchase. I love that he spelled judgment the old school way. Side note that you see in the Rider-Waite-Smiths. Look at this Ace of Cups. It's so freaking beautiful. I'm so in love with this deck. It's not even funny. As time goes by, I just love her so much. But anyhow, I digress. I'm relatively certain it's still available for purchase. Either way, I will put the link up on his website so you can see that. And I'm going to show you one more card here so you're still, this is the Page of Pentacles. I love this depiction of the Page of Pentacles. So you still have some surprise here. But it is because of the cardstock. I don't want to shake the camera. Because of the cardstock, it is a very thick deck. And it is, you know, let's see, what do I have down here? I have a Chicoli Tarot. So here's Chicoli Tarot to compare. This is a traditional low Scarabeo size. So it's definitely, you know, I think it's an appropriate size for tarot, but if you do have smaller hands, it can be a lot. I have large hands, so this deck works perfect for me. I don't struggle with that. I just don't ever shuffle it like I would a normal deck because the cardstock is so delicious and I don't want any kind of warping to happen to this deck. But this is a deck that I am considering a purchase of a secondary copy so that I have one just in case, because you know how that is. Like when you have your favorites, at least if you're an earth sign, I think you want backups for the best ones, right? Just in case. Like I have multiple copies of Tarot of Vampires so that I'm all set if I ever lose my original or something happens to it. But this is one of those decks that like I would purchase a second copy and not bemoan the investment. This is an independently produced deck that's worth the investment, in my opinion. I will always be honest with you. I'm going to be doing a review soon for an independently produced deck that I don't think was worth the investment. So I'll always be straight up with you. And remember, each one of us experiences decks differently. So something I love, you may not. Something that I don't love, you may love. Always trust your intuition. But the True Black Tarot is in my top 5 tarot decks of all time. I love this deck. I love her voice. I love the artwork. I love the experience of working with her because she's so beautiful and the cardstock is so yummy. I love the artwork. I can't say enough beautiful things about this deck. It's just there and I am here for it. It's everything. So if you've been on the fence about this one and you weren't sure and you wanted to know my opinion, I highly recommend it. If you feel drawn to it, it's 1000% worth the investment of time and money. Look. I'm sure I already showed this, but look at that Justice card. Oh, it's just so beautiful. So anyhow, the link to the artist and author's website will be below. One of my friends did tell me that he is creating a new deck, which I'm very excited about. But this one is like the Cadillac. It's the Louboutin. It's that perfect, beautiful glass of Veuve Clicquot. Like, this is it. This is beautiful. I love this deck. I can't recommend it highly enough if you feel drawn to it. As I said, it is an investment. So, take that where that lies for you, if it's an investment you want to make or not. But to me, it is worth the investment. So thank you so much to the person who reached out and asked me to do a full review. I am sending you all so much love and many blessings, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.